Today we need to talk about Jung Kook hiding his true feelings and finally talking about it. Fans were a bit disturbed that Jung Kook seemed not so okay at the airport, and then we have JYP talking about Stray Kids at the hospital. So hey Dumplings, it's Dave. Decide hate it or not, make sure you subscribe with the notification bell on. Grab a dumpling, taste bling mug merch, and let's go. Several of the Stray Kids members recently got into a bit of a car accident, and this sent the fandom into a frenzy. People were definitely wondering if everyone was okay and how did this even happen? Well, I'm here to break things down and talk about what likely could have happened. So if you are not aware, let me give some backstory on everything. JYP released their "Hello, this is JYP" statement, which I'm sure at this point hits the same way when HYBE releases their "Hello, this is Big Hit" statement. And JYP talked about how on September 20th, there was a car that carried Lino, Hyunjin, and Seungmin somewhere, and they got into a bit of a collision. They were immediately rushed into the hospital, and this was definitely something that was a bit scary. Given how often the boys or any K-pop idol take planes or travel in cars, it's really not a shock when you hear that they got into these accidents. There's a study that says around 3% of drivers experience a car accident. These numbers are obviously hard to verify and solidify, but if they're true, then you can see how Stray Kids would get into an accident, because if they take 4 or 5 car rides a day each year for multiple years, you're just increasing your odds. JYP or any of these entertainment companies don't hire just regular drivers, but some of the best. These drivers not only have to know how to drive, but how to maneuver tight driving situations, driving in big cities, and be able to get somewhere on time. Even if there's traffic, they should know the road well enough to get there so idols don't end up being late. So if there was some sort of accident, it was likely the other driver's fault. The members were reported to have a mild muscle pain and bruising, and so of course medical professionals advised them to relax for a little bit and not work so hard. JYP described this as a minor collision, but I'm confused. I'm sure we've all been in a car accident before, or minor scrapes. I was in one in my early days when I first got my license. I had a bumper entirely ripped off. I've been in cars with my friends where another car slammed in the back of us, and these are considered, in my opinion, pretty serious collisions because the damages to the car were pretty significant. Minor collisions could also be interpreted as things like a scratch or a dent in the car, and even with my more serious collisions, everyone was fine. So I guess my confusion here is that if it was minor, how did anyone sustain any injuries? Because I've never needed to get medical help after any of my accidents. Everyone could still get out of the car and walk. And so this actually sounds pretty serious what the members got into. But it wasn't just the concern of their safety and health, but there then became sadness of all the future events that are being canceled because of this. The other members who are okay will still continue to do the Global Citizens Festival, and then things like Milan Fashion Week or a birthday live stream are canceled. So it's definitely sad that those 3 members won't be able to attend Global Citizen, but I hope they get better and things are okay. I think one day, maybe long after their spotlight has ended, the members of any K-pop group can come out and talk about their story and their struggles with K-pop, and I'm sure we'd all be shocked to hear about it. Or maybe we could praise them. Jung Kook is someone who recently came out to talk about a lot more during his DAZE magazine interview and photo shoot. First off, he absolutely killed the photos and did so well. He looked so good, and then second of all, the people who did the questions for the magazine made sure to ask some real hard-hitting questions. One of the questions they asked Jung Kook was that the fandom often perceives him as a bunny or as a baby, and asked Jung Kook what his thoughts were on this. Jung Kook said that when he saw people talking about this, he realized that people really liked that about him. I think he was surprised that people enjoyed the baby image that he had. He talked about how feeling like he might be a bit stuck and if he was to only follow that image for the rest of his life. Jung Kook talked about how he has always loved looking for new things and being a new version of himself. So naturally he wanted to change and do other things. And so this is where the concept for 7 really worked for him. Jungkook talked about how for the explicit version, he obviously has those more explicit words and explains that this is why he chose to use those words and to eventually shed the baby image. Jungkook talked more existentially to say that he is much older now and then lyrics should reflect his age. His fans have also grown and everything is much different now. He and we are obviously not the same people we were from a decade ago. And while new people are always discovering Jungkook and his music, if he doesn't adapt and join in with the trends and current events, then he will eventually become less prominent in the lives of many of his older supporters. And this is not to say those who leave the fandom are fake fans. Many people fall in and out of love with K-pop all the time, and you'll see people loving K-pop and the genre for a few seasons and then never really coming back to it. But if Jungkook follows the trend and mixes his music into Western music, K-pop will move with that. It then becomes hard to understand K-pop when you hear it all over the radio as you walk into a store. And so growing up with your supporters and people who listen to you is a big thing that is necessary. Human development is very normal, and I see very often a lot of armies are scared to see the members grow and move forward with their lives. I think they expect the man that they initially fell in love with to be the same person and be that way for their whole life. The part that makes this a toxic relationship, even if it's a parasocial one, is the fact that even in a more intimate relationship, both parties will be very different people from when they started dating versus years later in the relationship. The difference is that the two people who are together accept the growth and love each other regardless of whatever decisions the other partner makes in life. Again, even if it's a bit different from what they knew their partner as in the beginning. So having this idea that Jungkook cannot change is not loving him, it's not accepting him, and it's just overall a very unrealistic way to look at how a human should behave. Obviously, for many years, Jungkook hid his feeling on this, as this was likely something he felt like he could not talk about, as he didn't want to isolate or hurt a specific part of the fandom that really enjoys infantilizing him. However, I think Jungkook realizes that it might be better to not have those types of people support him, as they are not going to love his true self and the true music he wants to make now. I cannot wait to see him do more music and whatever his album will sound like. I do react to 7 over on Patreon and many of Jungkook's recent performances, so if you do want to see that reaction and watch reactions with the rest of the Dumpling family, then come join us. We have a great time. I will link the Patreon in the top of the description. It's hard to post those reactions here as they do get copyrighted, but since the videos on Patreon are behind a paywall, which is like $1 a month, I am able to upload those copyright things without them getting copyrighted or risk the channel being copyrighted. Of course, the money also supports this channel. Anyway, Jungkook is going through a lot right now, so it's very difficult to think that Jungkook is still fully okay mentally and 100% healthy right now. Of course, I don't actually think that he is hurt or injured or being mistreated. However, I do think he is very stressed right now and extremely busy right now due to him working on his album, doing photo shoots, interviews, and promoting his song 7. This is the very tough part about doing photo shoots, press, interviews, and promo for the song. Most of us, as long as we show up to work, put in the hours, and at least give an effort to our job, we will get paid. However, all of these things that I just said Jungkook is doing are not things that he is getting paid for. Artists really only make money through sales or streams of their music. There's also brand deals, but that's something else. So if you see them in a magazine, on TV, wherever, and then you go and decide to give their music a stream or buy, then the appearance or press they did actually will result in the artist getting paid. However, there's no way to gauge this. If you appear in a magazine, who is to say someone bought your album or single after seeing that cover, or did they buy your music after walking into a store and hearing the song play? There's no way to track that. This can cause a lot of artists to burn out or be very exhausted and tired because they're working overtime but seeing their bank account looks the same, or the amount of money is not equivalent to the hours put in, and oftentimes less than minimum wage. But they're giving up their free time that they would normally see their family or friends. However, this is likely not Jungkook's issue, but an issue that exists widely in the industry as a whole. Jungkook was seen recently at the airport looking extremely tired. Apparently, a news reporter there asked Jungkook if he was tired, and he nodded yes. People were definitely worried and nervous that he was being being severely overworked. However, he is not a veteran, and if he is being overworked, it's because he himself put that on himself. It wouldn't be anyone telling him to do that. People think that Jungkook might be in poor condition or poor health, and as I said before, they can very much be overworked and be doing a lot of things to ensure their success with their album. There is no doubt a lot of pressure on Jungkook to make sure he receives a #1 that does very well. So in order to do that, he may feel like he needs to take every press opportunity that he can, and yeah, that ultimately would result in a lot more exposure for him, and thus this can result in a lot more opportunities and exposure for music. Let me know what you think. Make sure you check out my Patreon for more videos, link down below. Thanks, just literally comment right here. Love you, bye.